welcome to the show. Today we have Brian Harrington on, and I think of Brian as Brian with an I.
Brian with an I.
I think of Brian as an actor, producer, political operative.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Is that sort of a good description for you?
That is. You missed the entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
But that's the last one I added in, yeah.
So, do you have a business card with the slashes on it?
I don't yet. Nope. The top of my website has it, but I've yet to make a business card.
Wow. So, if you had to pick a percentage of actor, producer, political operative, entrepreneur, what would you choose?
It varies by the month. It definitely varies by the month. The majority of my income currently comes from the political operative side. But
so is this sort of like political operative, like the Trump papers that you go around collecting information and release it to people on the ground? No. What are the papers called? The you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-mm.
The what on the political side? What do you do for campaigns?
I've served papers to people before, like lawsuits. But I picked the short end of the straw on that a couple times and had to do that. But
I know
it's definitely not the day to day of it.
The dossier. I was thinking of like undercover.
No. I hope my name wasn't ever in the dossier. I don't think it was. Yeah.
So as far as I guess introduction, Brian and I met on a train. It was Amtrak Surfliner, I think.
Yes.
Between LA and Carlsbad. And we were sort of sitting in the dining car talking to each other. It's sort of unlikely. I forgot what it was.
Well, it was the day you were talking to the girl that was behind me, and I had my headphones in. And normally I wouldn't chime into that kind of conversation, but I heard you talking about kind of the entertainment industry with her, and that was the day that my first film, Rodeo Girl, hit Netflix. So I was kind of on a high riding off of that. Like it was a good day in my entertainment career that day. So I think that's how it chimed in, and that's how it got started.
Now remember, you're saying it was the first day your movie got released and you were super psyched.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about that movie. How'd you get involved in Rodeo Girl?
Yeah, so Rodeo Girl, I was hired at the very beginning to do marketing for the film's Kickstarter. So because I had been doing a little bit of online marketing, and so the head producer, one of the co-producers, Lucas Miles, hired me to do online marketing and tip the Kickstarter. So we successfully did that, and then he kind of I kept getting slowly more and more roped in to that, and by the end of it, I had an associate producer credit, and I had my first experience on set, and yeah.
So with Rodeo Girl, was it financed through Kickstarter?
Partially. Part of it was financed through Kickstarter, and then the majority of it was financed through just personal independent investors that we all found.
It started on Kickstarter?
It started on Kickstarter. Well, it started off of Kickstarter, and then we also used Kickstarter to gain some of the extras that we used in the film. So it was more of a way to build our email list, build kind of online excitement about the film too. And raising money was, I think our total trying to raise was only like $5,000 or something. So it was just an easy, small goal that we could hit so that we could, start to drive some online traffic around the idea in the film.
That's great. So was that before Sorbo was attached?
No, it was after he was attached. So we definitely used the name to, draw traffic to the Kickstarter.
That's great. So as far as Rodeo Girl, can you sort of give us a summary of what the movie's about?
Yeah, it's a family-friendly story about a Midwest girl who switches from English-style horse riding to barrel racing, and she has to go live with her dad for the summer. So, just a good family-friendly story about a girl who, learns to fall back in love with her dad and learns to get up when life knocks you down.
That's great. So my question about that is, had you ever been involved in producing a film before this?
No, I've never been involved. I would not categorize myself as a creative person or as an artist or anything. Like in all my schooling, I dreaded art class, hated it, never thought I would go into movies, never thought I would be an actor. I thought being a producer was this big, sexy word that you had to work in a tower in Santa Monica, and I didn't really understand anything what it was. But then as soon as I realized that being a producer is just doing the logistics, business side of filmmaking, I thought, oh, that's something I can do. I can do project management. I can bring people together. I can raise money. I can make sure XYZ components all show up to work on the right day. And
how did your background in banking help you with film?
I think that just helped me being comfortable talking about money with people because, you know, love it or hate it, a big part of whether a film gets made or doesn't get made is the money on the front end, and the correct management of the money, you know, through the production process. And now we're in the payback period of Rodeo Girl, so it's been a year since it's been out, and we're about 40 to 50% paid back to our investors. So that's a really exciting kind of position to be in, and we've got a really strong next year lined up too, because we're still on Netflix. That's still paying us out. We're still available on Amazon. I think we're still in Walmart in the box store. So
I mean, it's really impressive for people listening who don't know. It's impressive to be able to make a movie and get distribution.
Yeah, and like I said, this being my first one, as soon as I kind of started to dive into this world essentially and talking with more and more guys like you, just about filmmaking, I really started to see kind of how in rare company it really was. Like with this, my first one kind of out of the gate.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the first one you work on gets finished, gets financed, and gets distribution, and it's making its money back.
Right.
It's pretty, I mean, don't get used to it.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. Right.
It's just sort of,
right.
I mean, I know, you know, probably one out of 15 or 20 films that I know that are made independently get distribution.
Yeah.
You know, other than just, you know, on YouTube or something.
Sure.
That's great. So how did that lead to your next film?
So the next film, the same group of people, it was Lucas. So I developed a relationship with the executive producer, Lucas Miles from Rodeo Girl, and he had an idea he wanted to do another one, and I wanted to do another one, and you know, we got together, and I think the very first day we talked about it, you know, I think I ponied up the down payment on the script, and he ponied up the legal fees to you know, get the LLC set up, and that was really it. Like at the beginning of it, it was kind of just me and him and an idea.
That's great.
Yeah.
So who wrote the script?
Her name's Shay Fontana. She's a Disney Channel writer. She's written some cartoons for that, and her script was available on Inktip. I think it's an online platform where writers can put their script up for sale. So yeah, that's the way we met her, and it was the perfect script for the two teenage twins that we used, Jackie and Lizzie Labadie. They're from the Midwest, and so it was Lucas's idea to develop a script around them, and Shay's writing fit exactly perfect into it. And so now we have this funny mix of, I keep telling people it's kind of like a mix of Home Alone and like the old Mary-Kate and Ashley movies. It's just a funny kids movie, adventure, feel good.
That's great. So it's interesting. So you had the actors already in mind?
Yeah.
And then you went out and you said, let's find a project for them.
Right.
And then you found a script that had already been written, and then you optioned the script.
Yep.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, as far as developing things, there's people ask about different ways to go into projects.
Right.
And what I like about that is you guys know what type of film you're making,
mm-hmm.
and so you know the genre, you know the actors you're comfortable with. Have you worked with them before, or?
Yeah, we met them. So Rodeo Girl was a Midwest produced film too. We shot it in Lowell, Michigan, on a ranch outside of Lowell, Michigan. It's in Roanoke Ranch. And the cool thing about just working in the Midwest is everybody's just a really hard worker, and
Trump country.
Yeah,
no.
Trump country. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how much my worlds have all collided. But yeah, just the crew members are really hardworking. They don't mind going long days, you know, just as long as the producers are talking with them and being really just communicating straight up. They're good at that. The actors all really want to work, so that's great. Great attitudes all the way through. Yeah, and so we met them they came out and worked on Rodeo Girl with us. So that's when we met them.
So were you working at all on the films during the campaign? I mean, were you in the Midwest when after Trump had announced?
No, so definitely not during the Trump campaign. The first campaigns I'd ever worked on was actually the first year that I did Rodeo Girl too. So Rodeo Girl was shot it in, principal production was in October of 2014. and 2014 was the first campaign cycle I'd ever worked on. So I was working for an Orange County supervisor race down here in Southern California, and I was living in Costa Mesa at the time. And when I got the offer to be a part of Rodeo Girl, I was doing it remote while I was working on the campaigns for most of the time, and then I took 1 week off from the campaigns to go out to set.
That's great.
Yeah.
So were you there the whole shoot?
Just for principal production. I was there for the 6 or 7 days that we had Sorbo with us, and then they shot some pickup scenes afterwards.
Wow.
So, and then we shot Crowning Jewels in 2015. So there was no campaigns that year, and that's kind of what I filled. I filled most of my time that year with pre-production, post-production, Crowning Jewels.
So do you think when you 2 years ago did you think I'm gonna have 2 films produced? Could you? I guess 3 years ago when all this started, did you think in 2 years from now I'm gonna have 2 films produced, distributed, and
No, absolutely not. I wanted to work in a band. You can ask anyone that used to know me. Like I'm way more of a free spirit now. I didn't have a beard. I like I said, I didn't consider myself an artist. I wanted to work in a bank, and I was working for a bank. That's actually the funny story of how I met Lucas. Was I was working for a bank, and they sent me to a conference to kind of get new leads. And one of the girls at the conference, she was the main music artist for the conference, and her booth was right next to mine. And it turns out Lucas was her manager for her kind of like artist stuff. And so she eventually got us connected on the phone, and it just really kind of exploded from there because we had a lot of common interests. And
so you're a networker.
Yeah,
a
definitely.
connector.
Definitely.
Have you read Tipping Point?
I haven't.
Was it Tipping Point or Outliers? Okay, Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book about certain types of people. Some types of people are connectors, where they meet people and they connect people up, and they have a wide range of networks. And
Right.
it seems like that's the type of person you are.
Yeah, definitely. And Lucas is a lot the same way too, and that's why Joanna, who introduced us, she could kind of immediately knew that both of us were kind of the same type of people, and that's why we got on the phone. And I'm sure Lucas had no idea why we were on the phone the first time we talked. I was doing it from a Starbucks next to my campaign office in Orange County too, which was funny.
I heard Starbucks is sort of your office away from home.
Yeah, definitely. Which is funny, being conservative. I know we're supposed to boycott Starbucks now, but no, I love Starbucks. I'm a gold card member. I go there every city that I'm in. Yeah.
And I'm still confused as to why Starbucks is bad. Other than, I don't know. I know there's a lot of just backlash.
Well, I think the owner is liberal and donates to a lot of causes, but some reason the riders, I feel like, always like to break his windows, so I don't really understand that.
That's
a weird strategy.
The riders always break the Starbucks windows, even
right.
Right. Not the coffee.
I like they always have a bunch of outlets, so my laptop before this one, I always had to have it plugged in. It didn't work very good. Always have a bunch of outlets. Wi-Fi, super easy to get onto. They don't charge for the Wi-Fi, and there's no password. And they don't kick you off after a couple hours. And number 3, once you're a gold card member, there's free refills. So it doesn't matter how long you sit there, there's always free refills.
Wow.
And I have this theory that because look, I like hipster coffee shops just as much as the next guy. Like I would go and sit in those too. But the problem is, the more hipster they are, the less the Wi-Fi works. So I don't know why that is, but I need Wi-Fi.
It's organic Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know. So it just doesn't work.
And a lot of the hipster coffee shops don't even have Wi-Fi, or they give you a limit.
Right.
Or
there's no outlets.
Oh, and there's one, what did I say? Oh, no outlets, there's another one. And then some of them, they turn off the Wi-Fi during the peak time.
Yeah, right. Or like if you have I've seen some too that they're like a coffee shop during the day and then a wine bar at like night. And so they kick out people with laptops at like 5 o'clock. Like you can't come in anymore.
Wow.
Because it ruins the vibe or something of this.
Funny. So no coffee bean.
Well, yeah, no coffee bean because their Wi-Fi. I think it needs a password and they kick you off, which is frustrating because I've heard the owner of Coffee Bean's a conservative, so I would really love to be on that train. But
they need to have more user-friendly Wi-Fi.
Right, and Starbucks has more locations too, which is the bummer, and so it feels more. Like, I always know what kind of chair I'm going to sit in. The sounds are the same, and so it's way easier to just dive back into the work because everything's...
ambient sound is
similar. It's similar. All the
That's
time.
great.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, you know what? I think the difference between conservatives and liberals is conservatives don't boycott people they disagree with.
I hope so. I hope we continue that.
That's good. So what as far as acting, what are your acting goals? What have you acted in, and sort of is that something you're pushing for now, or?
Yeah, so I snuck my way into the entertainment industry through the producing side, using my business knowledge, and then I really like personal branding, and the ability to call myself a producer definitely, adds to the online mystique of my profiles and all that stuff. So I definitely like doing that. And then acting, I feel like, is just the next level of that. As soon as I had sat behind some of the casting calls and watched, what was happening, I thought, I can do this. And so I took one semester of acting class. I read True or False by David Mamet. I read Ivana
Chubbuck?
Yeah, I read The Power of the Actor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about all I know as far as the method. So I feel like I read Ivana talk about the method, and then I read David Mamet just destroy the method, and so I feel like I've gotten both sides now in a semester. So all purist actors will hate me. Like, that's what I said during Harris's and Neer's class that night. It was just that, look, I definitely am not purist as far as an actor goes. But for better or for worse, being on TV is something that's valued in basically the whole world now. And so I just figure if there's any way for me to sneak onto TV, I'll take advantage of it. And so I've really played up the whole having a beard and having a unique look to kind of sneak into some roles. So
and that's a real beard.
Yeah, it's a real beard. I worked for 2 years on this beard. The day I left the credit union to go on this crazy freelance campaign and movie adventure, I started growing the beard. So yeah, it's been 2-3 years now.
That's a great story. So
Yeah.
you quit your job?
Yeah, I left the bank.
Did they say, Brian, if it doesn't work out, you can come back?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, when I left for the campaign the first time, they said, well, let's just put you on a leave of absence, and just maybe after the campaign, you can come back. And I said, well, if my guy wins, like, I'll probably go to work for, them into the future. And they're like, okay, well, we can cross that bridge when we come. And at that time, I hadn't even gone on the movie route yet, so I have no idea what they would have said if I said I was leaving to work on a movie.
Was that back home?
No, that was it was right here next to it was in Covina or San Dimas, California.
Wow.
Yeah, a little bit east of Pasadena.
Oh, so you lived in LA?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you lived in Studio City.
Yep.
Okay. So how does that compare to Oceanside?
I love Oceanside. I think if anyone want to understand this, I really think if you grow up in Orange County, there's this thing about Santa Ana. Like, Santa Ana is kind of the rundown part of Orange County. But if you're a young person, you can get some cool lofts in downtown Santa Ana, and it's kind of up and coming. My theory is that Oceanside is the Santa Ana of San Diego. Because I talk to people from Del Mar, I talk to people from Scripps Ranch, from downtown, and they're all like, Oceanside? Are you serious? But also, with me commuting up to see kind of my politics Orange County crowd, I truly believe Oceanside to San Juan, Oceanside to San Clemente is the best commute in Southern California. You just zip right through Camp Pendleton, and there's no traffic, whatever time of day.
And the things that you can afford in Oceanside, there's no way you can get them in San
Oh,
Clemente.
totally. Right. I live in a sweet 1-bedroom, 2 blocks from the ocean right now in Oceanside. It's the last stop of the Metrolink, so I'm still connected to the LA Metro station, which is how we met on the Amtrak. So yeah, I think it's the perfect solution.
That's great.
Yeah. Plus, everyone from LA, we run into this all the time when we're like running around. Everyone from LA comes down to San Diego on the weekends anyways. So I'm already here.
So yeah. And I was coming down every weekend too, so it just made sense for me to come down. Where in Studio City did you live?
I lived right off Lankershim across from Universal Studios.
Now, do you find that you have less auditions now that you're down here, or more, or does it affect? Do people hear that you live in Oceanside and they're hesitant to bring you?
I thought that was gonna happen, but it hasn't happened so far, and I really credit that to I had built a relationship with my manager before she signed me, so she kind of understood my work ethic, and she understood the way what I really was looking for in a manager was someone who understood the way I had come into the entertainment industry, and that I'm not a purist actor. Like, and I'm totally comfortable saying that, and I'm totally comfortable with some people not getting that about me. But as far as a manager goes, she almost liked that about me, and
define purist actor.
Really loves the method, is in acting class 3-4 hours a week, doesn't want to pursue producing or the other elements of the entertainment industry because they really believe in acting as an art form. Because my strategy is kind of the opposite. It's just, I believe the entertainment industry is just this wide thing, and the more you pick at any different one of the jobs, the more successful you're going to be, and the more opportunities are going to come up in any other area. So I mean, if you can get a production assistant job for $100 a day, I say take it. Absolutely take it.
So that's a good advice. And also, you probably just basically play yourself in most of your auditions, right? Just or some variation of yourself.
Right.
What would you say? A hipster?
A hipster is
lumberjack.
Yeah, hipster and lumberjack are the two I get called in for.
Any other ones? Young rebel, young.
I did my one independent film last year was kind of more of like a henchman sidekick a little bit. So I'd like to do more of that. And I totally understand why that doesn't work for everyone, because some people do have more of a leading man look or a more, leading woman look, and they want to be a dramatic actor with some deep, long roles and not just the kind of co-star stuff that I'm doing. And I think that's really cool. But I would just encourage anyone kind of on the starting edge of it to really recognize what's the least amount it takes to get that first co-star, so that you can kind of just experience some momentum. Because like LA and just acting community in general is very competitive. It's it just all the time. It's like, whoa, what have you done lately? Is always the question. So as long as you have something that you can like always come back with, even if it's low level co-star, and you don't have to understand the method or do 3 years of scene study to get your first co-star. So I just think I think that's with anything. Like, I'm a big Tim Ferriss listener. I'm Tim Ferriss all the way, and that's one of his principles is like, do the least amount necessary to see the result that you want to see. So maybe I'm just a one-off guy and it's all random, but it only took me one semester and then I got my first co-star. So I don't know.
Well, that's great. It's because of your work ethic, but also just your attitude, I think, does that. I remember the good story with Harrison Ford when his first role, or one of his first roles, he was playing a waiter, and the director said, they fired him from the job, and they said he doesn't look like a star, and he said, I wasn't playing a star, I was playing a waiter.
Right.
You want me to play a star? And so I remember just thinking about that. That's
right.
Sounds like a good reminding me of you, because you know what. It's almost easier if you're a character. You say, I'm going to play a character or be a character actor rather than I'm going to be a leading man.
Right.
Because you can walk in. There's such a wide variety you can play.
Well, and I just think that's the kind of like entrepreneur approach in general is like, what do I need to know to get through today? Or what do I need to know to execute today? And then you go and study whatever that one thing is that you have to do to get through today. If I somehow talk my way into a leading role and I'm way above my head, I will go find an acting coach, hire them for one-on-ones for 5 hours a day, for the 2 weeks I have to learn the whole script. Like, I'm definitely ready to, Tiger Woods has a swing coach. Like, I'm in no way.
It's not really working out now.
Like, I don't know. I'm not demeaning coaching. I think you should totally have coaching. I think you should totally have mentors. But I've seen too many people, no matter what career they're in, get bogged down in wanting to know all the right answers, wanting to know everything, and trying to be this over-prepared person, and that keeps them from diving in.
There's some schools in LA where you have to go for 2 years before you can even audition or read a script or do anything like that.
I think that's a bummer. I don't know.
So, no, that's good advice. What's the crossover between acting and politics? politics for you? I mean, what are the similarities in the business?
A lot of people ask me that. I think it's the same industry now. I think it's, for better or for worse, entertainment and politics are the same industry. I think it's all about, because think about it this way: there's no one schooling path to being an actor or to being a politician. There's no one type of person that becomes an actor or becomes a politician. It's all about just the ability to draw eyeballs and draw attention and be able to, semi-public speak. That's the connection. And it's all about gaining followers.
That's true. It's interesting because the people who, on both sides, who are controversial,
right,
but people not liking them, it feeds the people defending them and following them.
Right.
So it's right now people. It feels like that people are just picking a controversial position and taking it.
Yeah.
On both sides, as politicians or as actors.
Right.
Which is it's interesting.
And we can go on and on all day about whether that's a positive thing for society or a negative thing for society. And again, that's a fun conversation to have, and I think that's an important conversation to have. But eventually you have to realize this is how the world's working. Do you want to be a player in the world, or do you want to be an observer of the world? Like, you can either knock on the door and step into what's happening, and try to influence it, whether it's entertainment or politics, trying to influence the world in the way that you want to see it, or are you going to stay on the sidelines and hem and haw about how much of a bummer it is that people are calling each other names on Twitter? Like, it just, And I've chosen to, again, for better or for worse, to kind of step into the game and be a part of it and try to play it.
That's great. Do people in Hollywood assume certain politics that you have or certain beliefs just because you're in Hollywood, or how you look, or things like that?
Probably. But I actually think it's a great time to be a conservative in Hollywood. Like, the more that I've met just different people and been around it, and the more I just kind of watch TV and watch these different guys doing their podcasts and that kind of stuff, I don't know. I'm again, because I take a broader approach, and I don't mind being an actor one day and being a producer the next day and being a production assistant the next day and like doing a podcast the next day. So for me, as a conservative, so far I haven't had a lack of opportunities. I've had a abundance of opportunities being involved in both politics and entertainment and being conservative, because that's interesting, and because I'm willing to take any one of the different things. The conservatives that I see that have an issue that have to be like undercover are the ones that are, hey, back to just being a purist actor. Like, I just want to be a purist actor. Because again, you want to be a producer, then bring the money and manage the project. No one's going to tell you not to be a producer, because everyone wants the work. So yeah, maybe I don't think there's a situation where a liberal actor would refuse to work for a conservative producer when they're being offered a paycheck, unless they're a celebrity, and then they're in a position where they can choose to make that decision. But if you're a beginning actor, and I don't see a situation where you would logically turn down work.
Yeah, unless it's sort of. I mean, it's funny how musicians can go and they can go to Libya and play for Gaddafi, or go play to some dictator and get paid millions of dollars. Yeah. But they don't hold that themselves to the same standard they hold other people.
Right. Well, I mean, and I'll shout out some names that I really admire and look up to, that I think are exactly in the space of what I'm talking about. Like, I think Ben Shapiro, like, being from LA, the way that he's a pundit and has his own show, but then I'm sure he has friends that are in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. If he wants to be a producer and use some of the funds that he's been able to make from his show, he could easily go and be a producer. I think Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon owns royalties in Seinfeld. That's awesome. Like, the fact that he combines all the industries and
the fact that Seinfeld helped put Trump in the White House.
Right.
Is the most ironic.
Yeah, it's completely ironic. What else? I think
Shapiro drove me nuts though, because he was so anti-Trump.
Right.
It got to the point where I had to turn off his show.
I didn't follow him actually before Trump. Like, I haven't been a recent listener to his show. And so if you want to hear that, go watch his episode after Trump announces Gorsuch. and Shapiro's wearing the Make America Great Again hat in the episode. So use that to kind of knock you out of that fun.
That's so funny.
Or the way that Rob Long was on the Greg Gutfeld show. Like I think Rob Long's a perfect example of a guy who, you know, he's around. Like he's a writer. He does his thing, and he had that cool Variety article about like what his perspective of being a Republican. Greg Gutfeld himself, like, or Dennis Miller, you know, those kind of comedian guys, and that's why, or like the whole Milo phenomenon, like all of that are brands, and I see all of that as in the entertainment industry. Like the whole thing has been democratized. Entertainment industry does not just mean Hollywood anymore, and so I think the more that anyone up and coming or any conservatives out there that, you know, are feeling beat up because they're inside the Hollywood bubble, like I think it's a great time to just go for it and put all your chips on the table. Be conservative, stand for whatever you think's right, and just continue to draw fans.
No, I agree. You can't, if you try to hide who you are or try to please everybody or something like that, then ultimately you're gonna be disappointed, because just, you know, you're not going to be true to yourself.
Right.
At the same time, you have to be aware when you're in Hollywood of the circles you're in, and sort of how easily offended everybody is over everything.
Sure.
And it's sort of, I'm in that same boat, you know. It's sort of, you can't say one thing to the wrong person,
right,
because they'll flip out.
Right.
So
well, and obviously Trump is a unique, you know, made all of this unique because he's not a traditional Republican, he's not a traditional conservative, and so like the whole, but that's also, I feel like what's unique about this moment right now in time is that all the battle lines are being redrawn right now. All the old alliances have all been shaken up. What Republican means, what Democrat means, all of that is being redrawn right now. And that's why I'm really seeing, on a grand scale, I believe entities are losing their power and individuals are gaining their power. Like, and some examples, like Brexit, people taking their power back. I believe church denominations are losing their power and individual churches are gaining their power. Like you're continuing to see, like I go to Mosaic in Hollywood and they have a plant down in San Diego too, and so I go there. That's all built on Erwin McManus's brand. That's all built on, they didn't call themselves First Baptist Hollywood and are under, and there's no like Central Baptist hub telling them what to think. Like they are called Mosaic, and that's their unique version of the gospel. And so I think you're seeing a lot of more independent brands. I think the political parties are losing, like everyone lost their trust in the Democrat Party, like after they ripped off Bernie and after they colluded with CNN and all that stuff. No one trusts them anymore. Republicans, no one trusts Republicans anymore because Trump completely blew that up when he got into the White House. And so I think that's awesome. That's why I actually think one of the biggest losers of 2016 was the Libertarian Party, because they put a goofball up there, and so no one was able to jump to him. But everyone in these private kitchen table conversations are kind of like live and let live people. I really believe the majority of people are live and let live people. And so that's, I hope the Libertarian Party gains a wider percentage in the future.
I'm a libertarian, you know. I feel like, but you look at Gary Johnson, and it's sort of, it was embarrassing to watch him.
Right.
And that's just not the, I mean, isn't Bill Maher a libertarian? Doesn't he claim to be a libertarian?
I think so.
You know, and it's just sort of, live and let live is great, but unfortunately, I don't know if you can get away with it today, because everyone wants to tell everybody else what to do.
Right. But, and what I was trying to explain through all of that is that your personal brand, who you are, and understand that your name is the product, whether, no matter what business you're in, I think is going to continue to help you into the future. Because social media, the specific channels might change, but the whole concept is not going away. The internet is not going away. More and more things are connected to the internet. Like the future is coming. Like so who you are as a person and your name not being drowned out by the noise, if you want to be an influencer, you know, in this country and in the world, it's all about your brand. It's all about your name recognition.
And that's what's funny. That's when you brought up Milo, is that no one would know who he is if people didn't riot every time he showed up.
Right.
And because a lot of people that I know would never read anything conservative or go to a college campus to watch someone. But then the same with Ben Shapiro, when he was, people were protesting him at UCLA. And it's funny that it's sort of this symbiotic relationship, because I think Milo thrives on the controversy.
Oh, completely.
You know?
Completely. Yeah.
So your work on the Trump campaign, what did you do for Trump?
So I was hired by the Trump campaign like 3 weeks before 3 or 4 weeks before Kasich and Cruz dropped out, and it was it was also right before his rally down in Costa Mesa. So I was backstage at that Costa Mesa rally. It was the first time I really got my biggest feel of like how big of a movement this was. So I helped set up campaign offices in San Diego, Orange County, and LA, and those stayed up through the whole primary. And then they kind of took, we kind of closed for a month, and then we re-sprung up and were a big part of the, I forget what the numbers were, but we made an insane amount of phone calls into Michigan and Wisconsin, like the week leading up to it. Yeah, and I was chatting back and forth with some of my Indiana and Michigan friends about how we were calling their state. And so to then really like watch that happen and realize that it was our phone banks here in California, because everyone assumes that California's lost, like it hasn't, that it wasn't going to go red this time.
That's why I was wondering, in your offices out here, so you weren't calling California?
No, we were calling battleground states. So we called Florida for a whole day, North Carolina for a whole day, Michigan, Wisconsin.
So what happens when you call someone? You have a list of numbers?
So sometimes on a smaller kind of city council race, yeah, you would, it's your cell phone and you're manually dialing a printout of Excel numbers that, we get from the county of registered voters. On a bigger campaign like Trump's campaign, presidential campaign, they shipped us these really nice phones that were auto dialers. And so it had the target of the voters loaded in. And then you would just hit next.
A cell phone?
No, it's like boiler room. Like everyone just sits in front of their phone.
So you hit a phone and it dials the next person.
Yeah, and so and you will.
Hello. So what happens?
So
you go, hello.
Say, hey, this is Brian from the Donald Trump campaign. Just calling to get the word out and hope that we can count on your support. And then
whatever happens.
Whatever happens.
I'm very concerned about Trump's anti-Muslim stance.
Right. You would just explain, how none of that's right and that's not what it's all about, and everyone's screwed up around what the mainstream media has been feeding everyone, so you try and unwind that as much as you can. And
so you're authorized to actually talk to voters
about totally yeah. And we had there were great like ladies and moms and just people, like one kid would come in after school every day with his Make America Great Again hat on, and he was like a high school kid, and we just tons of them come in there. But the moms were like the best. They would just sit and talk to anybody, and sometimes it would go for like 20, 25 minutes because people just want to talk. Yeah. I realized that there were some people that were just sitting at home and really were conflicted on who to vote for, and because it was tough. It was totally tough. Like I think we are all kind of, in all the noise post-election, we're kind of all just getting lost in the hubbub of everything, but what just happened was truly amazing. And this is the first guy to ever be elected as president that had not held public office before and had not been a general in the military.
Yeah, that
deserves like political study in and of itself, regardless if you love or hate him. I think that's really amazing.
That's amazing. And thinking about it, I was thinking, could it really help to make those calls? But he only won Wisconsin by 10,000 or 14,000.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe a few thousand of those could be the calls that you guys made.
Totally.
All of them could be that.
Well, and a lot of it, I think, too, is like people wanted to vote for Trump. People wanted to believe in the mission. People did believe in the mission, but then they were just being demonized in the press so hard, and all this other stuff so hard that you would watch on TV, that just calling and saying, hey, I'm from the Donald Trump campaign, hearing another friendly voice that's like with you on the other side, I think empowered some people to go and vote. So it wasn't even, again, if you want to be far leftist and disagree with everything he does and think that we would have been better like under Bernie or under whatever, that's totally fine. That's awesome. Like you can sit there and believe that, and I think that's great. I think that's what makes America great, is that we can have disagreements and work in the future. That's what I'm saying, is that it wasn't even so much debating. It was more just encouraging the people that, hey, if you want to be a part of this movement, you can. There's nothing wrong with being a part of this movement.
That's great.
Yeah.
So as far as you, what's next for you that you can talk about?
Yeah. 2016 was the best the best year I've had so far professionally in media and in politics. And so 2017, I'm really just looking to build upon kind of the success I did last year. Crowning Jewels is right at the end of kind of post-production right now, and we just released our trailer. You can find that on my website's brianharrington.org. And
.org. What about .org?
The .com was too expensive. It's like $800. So if anyone wants to get that from me for Christmas this year, we'll reroute it. But I've gained a lot of traction to the .org, so I think I'll stick with it.
So somebody bought brianharrington.com before.
Some, like a resale company is sitting on it. You know how most domains you can buy for $15, $20? Supposedly it's listed as like a premium domain name and they want $800 for it. So my brand isn't quite worth it to the point that where I can pony up and get that. But someday it might. So we'll have to reroute it. But yeah, so the Crowning Jewels trailer is up on my website, and
tons of hits already.
Yeah, we released it on the Crowning Jewels Facebook page, but as of this recording, it had been taken down. We got 17,000 views and 80 shares on it in our first 24 hours, and then somehow it mysteriously disappeared off Facebook. So we honestly don't know what happened. So I've sent in a support ticket. If anyone has any connections at Facebook, they can help us get that back up. Or maybe if you go to the Crowning Jewels movie Facebook page, maybe it'll be back up a little bit later.
It's not controversial, the trailer?
No, there's no controversial. We own the music rights. We own all the rights. So we really don't know what happened.
Any thoughts, theories?
Some are developing, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
We don't know yet.
Not free.
Right. Maybe in a later episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are we leaving out?
Politics. I'm just. I'm a true believer. I'm optimistic about the future. So any way that I can continue to be a part of that, I want to be a part of. I think conservatives are going to have a big year in 2018. So I'm just willing to be on the front lines and continue to be a part of that.
Somebody said being a conservative is the new punk.
I believe that. I fully believe that. I think we're about to see a conservative renaissance. I really believe that it's going to be, and I think that's what's great about Trump is they kicked the table over, redrew the battle lines, and now we can almost like start from zero again, because we're kind of entrenched in this like kind of old school way of doing it.
Establishment. This is the way it's always been. Type thing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
It's great having you on.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, congrats on all the films. And I will, when we post this, we'll post links to your website and to the films and things like that. So
perfect.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. So Brian Harrington, and what's your Twitter?
Brain Harrington. Yeah, so brianharrington.org. We got Crowning Jewels and Rodeo Girl on Facebook. And give me a shout out at Brain Harrington on Twitter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks.